What's up, Brandon? Thanks for coming in. Well, tonight we're just gonna be hanging out. See if anybody else pops up on panel with us. I actually can't. I should be getting ready for burbot fishing in a couple weeks. Then November's right around the corner. Gold Creek. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Well, if anybody else pops up on panel, we're gonna be talking about what we look for catching bait in different areas. I know myself up here, we can't use a cast net in Wisconsin. Bullets and barbecue. So we got to use rod and reel. Now, for like when I go for what we call alewife, which is actually the cousin to the skipjack, they come in from Lake Michigan up in the rivers. I use a sabiki rig myself, in which here again, I got a modified sabiki rig because we're only allowed 3 hooks here in Wisconsin. I mean, which ain't too bad because usually I have Audra with me. So, like last year, we went bait fishing for alewife, and in one day we caught about 150 to 200 of them. And that was pretty good. We caught it at the right time. They were coming up river and had bait for quite a while. And those I use for catfish when I'm fishing in Sheboygan River, or use them for burbot and salmon too. Now for like when I go for bluegills, any kind of panfish, I go to I always hit the boat ramp. Always had luck fishing by right at the boat ramp for panfish. Seeing I'm a bank fisherman. It's really? That's weird. I'll have to bullets and barbecue. I'll have to talk to John and see what's going on. Cause I know I got an Android, but I was able to see. I'm able to see everything, tackle everything that got the hats. That's weird. Huh. Yeah, that's really weird. What's up, Danny? Hopefully you got warmed up, man, from being out in that rain. I know I got up this morning and I think it was 34 degrees. That was the feels like. It was like 39, but it felt like 34. Guerrero, thanks for coming in, buddy. Huh. Yeah, that's weird that it didn't work for you guys. I don't know why that would be. Why it wouldn't be working. Yeah, so today I just stayed at the house. I didn't feel like going out in that cold. What's up, Patrick?
What's going on?
Nothing much, man.
I hear you. So we're talking about trying to find bait.
Yeah.
Uh, man, my luck, man, is we are allowed to use cast nets where I am at, and I like to find the areas where they're. Let's see, the areas that I find, man, is like a little cut in a riverbank where the water is not very deep, but it's there ain't no current moving in. And what I tend to find out, man, is them bait fish will run up in there. Uh, shad, brim, stuff like that will run up in them, getting away from the current and predator fish because it's a little bit shallower. But them predator fish will run up there too. But
Yeah.
what I do is I'll start right there at the mouth of it, and then I'll just kind of work my way deeper into the cut. And the only reason I do that because it seems like I corner them up basically. So as I work my way in, and normally that when I get down there at the end, there's just a pile of them. But other than that, man, I like you said about the sabiki rigs. I have. They didn't move in this year like they did last year, but them skipjack do run here in South Mississippi. No.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I
Not
find
yet,
them,
Uncle Lou.
they're right there. We got a set of falls where it's swift water, and you throw that sabiki rig right there. And sometimes if they're there, man, they'll come in and you can tear them up with that
What's
sabiki
that,
rig.
Lance?
What's up, John? Yeah,
Same
Sabiki
here.
rigs, man, they're good.
Yeah, they work, man, especially for them skipjack. But my buddy even caught a big old. I bet that bass was about 5 pounds on that little sucker. I don't know why he hit that little sabiki rig, but he nailed it.
Yeah. We had a guy catch last year or the year before, a guy caught a brown trout on a Sabiki rig. Well, he snagged it, all 6 hooks, man. The guy didn't cut his. He was using the full rig, That brown trout got snagged up in it.
Hey, Lance, I seen you.
Yeah,
I seen you had a comment about they was saying that it didn't load up on their iPhone.
yeah,
Okay, when they pull up the home page on the store,
yeah.
right? Can you see this? Let's see if I can get this right. You see that little box up there?
Mm-hmm.
If you hit that little box, it brings it down and it says on the side. See right here on the side of it, it brings a menu down on the side,
Right.
and you go to store. When you click the store, it's gonna come up. It's gonna show the jerseys, but you keep scrolling down, and it'll bring you to all the products and stuff. Let's see if I can get this right. Light.
It's just too bright, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll bring it down to all the products where circle hooks, bait holder hooks, J hooks, stickers, terminal tackle, swivels. I mean,
Yeah, see,
Yeah, it has that menu.
yeah, it works on my iPhone because I order stuff off the store myself. So
well, I mean, some people will look at it and they'll just scroll down a little bit and they get to the jerseys and it's blue and they figure that's the end of it.
yeah,
You just got to scroll on down a little bit more and it'll bring up the products.
What's up, Bug Man? Yeah, for the bait fish though, I look for slack water too.
yeah. See,
I mean, I like fishing at the boat ramp I go to. We fishing I'll fish off to the side where the grass is and everything.
believe it or not, man, them boat launches hold bait fish, especially brim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I know. See, I'm no expert on it, so I can't speak on it really. But I know a lot of people use their fish finders and find them bait balls. And I ain't never been able to do that. I don't know how to do that, but one day I'll learn. But they'll find them bait balls, and they can throw on them bait balls and be nothing but shad. So,
Yeah.
I can tell you another way you can do it too if you're fishing in the river. You run your sandbars, and every little cut you find dip back in that sandbar. Usually you can throw around in there and catch some shad and maybe
yeah.
some mullet.
Them shad also like them points on those sandbars.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know when down in Texas when I lived down there, we'd always we'd look for the bait balls on the fish finder and stuff, but that's been so many years ago, man.
yeah. See, I know some of our brothers that they're good at it. Probably like Creo or other
Ron does,
ones. Huh?
Ron does pretty good at getting bait,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
but
What is Ron up to tonight?
he's driving.
Ah dang.
Bullets and barbecue. Wasn't a problem, brother. Yeah, he said he just didn't go far enough down. He got it now, Lance.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps you out too, Uncle Lou.
Hey Lance, is there a way we can see the chat too?
You on your phone, Patrick?
Yes, sir.
You should be able to click that. You should have 3 dots on the bottom of your screen.
That ain't gonna work. I'm just telling you from experience, it ain't gonna work.
I see the comments.
Oh,
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Well, that ain't never worked for me.
What happens if I push join chat? Is he gonna kick me off?
There's a question for you, John.
What if you don't click join chat?
Yeah.
It says, have
It'll
the
bring
blue
up another.
started their winter hose started their wintering hose yet? Water's in the low 60s, upper 50s.
Well, on
Says
my
what I can
end,
tell around here, giving it a go Saturday behind the dikes. That's somebody on Facebook asking
yeah,
that
that's
question.
Curtis Keys. I mean, if your water's getting around the 50s and low 60s, it's a possibility that they're going to start moving toward the hose.
Here
You
comes
know,
the bait master.
That's the man that can
What's
find
up,
bait right
what's
Rio?
up, Creole?
I heard Boatmaster. I want to make sure there wasn't nobody standing behind me.
there.
Yeah, we was
Hey,
looking for him too.
Uh
that
huh.
I like
hat
that.
looks familiar.
I like that
Yeah,
hat.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You can
Look
tell.
at
You can tell
that.
it's my favorite hat because it's all dirty, full of dust. I wear it everywhere.
Now,
No.
Yeah,
hey,
this one too.
I'm gonna give y'all a little heads up on that hat. You know, we got a new one that's gonna be coming like you have on right there right now.
Really,
But it's gonna be camo.
you are determined for me to be broke, ain't you?
That's like
Yeah.
what Brandon said. We're gonna us pro staff gonna be in debt to the company. We're gonna owe our souls to the River Cat Tackles.
Owe our soul to the company store.
Yes,
What
indeed.
you got for some bait catching, Rio?
Well, we
Seeing,
can.
seeing you fish on the boat.
Yeah. But believe it or not, I do quite a bit of bait fishing off the bank. Actually, a lot of times it's either on my way back from work, things like that. It just depends on what species of bait we're talking about. Because my main one I use year in year out is slicker. Everybody else calls them skipjack. That's my normal bait. That's what I use probably 75-80% of the year. My normal thing with skipjack is I catch them in heavy current. A lot of them I catch by that hydro down here where I'm at. I know some of y'all know about. I know John knows about it. My big secret to catching those, I actually learned that from a Steve Douglas video years ago. I have some 9-foot ugly stick GX2s, and I'll tie me a sabiki that's got 4 or 5 jigs on it. I'll throw them out the back of my boat, let them hit the current, and just put them in my rod holders and just leave them at different lengths out the back of the boat while I'm casting jigs around. A lot of times I'll pick up fish on those while I'm casting around. It's like having another guy in the boat with you, and it also lets me find them a little easier. I've even been known to take my boat, stick it in the current, and start going backwards the same way I would do if I'd be bumping. Yet I've got those jigs out the back in front of me as I'm going back, and I've found them in the channel that way. Because everybody knows they'll move around a lot. They'll be here 1 second, here the next second. You got to constantly be throwing around trying to find them. So that's a big, big secret as to how I find those little schools of them in that current with all that fast channel in there.
Yeah, if you got a good fish that'll come through that cut right there, he's gonna make them scatter.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a cat, a gar, anything that spook them, and they'll run one side or the other. They're gonna get out of the way.
Yep, 100%. And the one habit that I've got into before I even get in the channel to go the direction that I think they are, all my sonars are turned off. All my electronics are off. Everything is off. Because I'll find now when they're super active, boiling on the surface, yeah, it doesn't matter that much. But when they're a little finicky, I find what'll happen, they'll slowly come towards my boat. And I'll because the boat itself makes a current seam. And they'll be attracted to that. But with the sonars on, it's like they stay out of casting distance. With everything off, I've literally caught them where they slap the side of my boat trying to hit the jigs.
Wow.
It does when they're a little finicky, it makes a big difference. And every little thing. I even tie my sabiki rigs with 20-pound fluorocarbon. tying them with mono when they're picky, I don't nearly get the bites as I do when I tie my sabikis with that fluorocarbon. It's every little thing.
I know they hard to catch in a cast net. They quick. They'll get out from under that net.
Yeah, I've accidentally maybe caught one or two in a cast net. That's about it. Like I said, they're so fast. I never
quick.
do any good.
I learned a trick with catching skip in a cast net.
As soon as it hits the water, crank it shut.
No. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everybody does different with a cast net, but when I use cast net, when I throw cast net, and I got an idea there might be some skip around or some slicker. What I usually do is when I throw that net, I hurry up and I pull a little bit of tension on that line, and it as soon as it hits, you feel something bump the net, pull it, because if it is skip, you're going to get him, because if you let it try to settle down on the rest of the pile, you're wasting your time, and you're going to give him time to run out from under that net.
Yeah, 100%.
Because what you was just saying, John, is proven. If you got a little bit of tension on that cast net, you'll feel if anything's in the net.
Yeah, you will.
And, you know, a lot of people don't do that. They throw the net, they leave the slack, and a lot of people think it has to hit the bottom to get that bait, but it doesn't.
A lot of the holes that I catch bait in, I can't let the net touch the bottom. I won't get it back.
You're right. I'll lose that lead line.
Yeah, that rock, man, they carry you up.
Yep. Yep. And you know, they don't give cast nets away. You know, a real good quality cast net, you're talking about $150 and up. And you gotta take care of those things. You really do. We got lucky the last time we were on the river. We hit a little spot of kind of isolated shallow water, and the big gizzard shad were literally just boiling on the surface. I hadn't really seen that happen before, at least not in an area that big. And it's amazing. Just like John said, I would throw that cast net, and I had just a little tension on the line, and every time a big shad would get in it, you feel that little bump, and I could almost count how many shad I had in my net by the time I pulled it tight.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a big difference in getting bait. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it does.
Because I know it will on skip, because skip will run, and they fast.
Yeah, they quick.
Yep,
and they can outrun that net to the bottom.
Yeah, and mullet too is the same thing. The way we catch them, I catch mullet in very shallow water.
Yeah,
my dad and I come up with a system to where we see them breaking the surface, and we weave the boat back and forth. We kind of corral them, and I'll take that cast net and I'll let it pop, and I'll pop the deck of my boat with it, and it runs them into that 1-2 foot of water against that sandbar. And then I'm throwing on maybe 12, 15 at the same time.
Yeah, that mullet's he's a funny one to get to now.
Yeah, they are. You better have a net that sinks fast, and you better have a heavy lead line if you want to keep mullet in a net, because these nets that are 1/2, 3/4 of a pound per foot, those mullet will dig themselves right from underneath it.
Man, look, all my cast nets is averaging 9 to 12 pounds.
Yeah. Yep.
They got the.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a pain to throw because it's so heavy. But it can limit the amount of times you have to throw.
I know if you targeting mullet, they got the mullet nets. I don't know if y'all seen them. I was telling John about them the other day. Instead of lead weights, it's actually a chain that runs the bottom of it, and it makes it sink super fast.
Yeah, that's a new style of net that came out. My net is a mullet net. It's a 1-inch mesh, 8-foot radius, 1.5 pounds of lead per foot. But I've got a chunk of lead spaced that far apart. Like the lead weights, they're smaller, but there's a lot more of them, and it lays really, really flat on the bottom. It's a killer on a shoulder, but it makes a difference in catching bait or not.
Yeah. The heavier the net is, it makes a difference.
Yeah. Huge difference. And even you know, and that's where I feel that properly prepping a cast net makes a huge difference in the way it throws and the way it lays down. You know, that's something that I learned from a video years ago about taking that cast net when you first get it, soaking it in an ice chest with hot water and about a cup or two of fabric softener, and leave it in it overnight. Take the net back out, rinse it off real good, let it dry. It softens that mono where it's not so stiff, makes a huge difference in really getting that net to spread out and pancake right the way it's supposed to. I'm a big believer in that.
Curtis Key says he says I think tape nets sink a little faster. Also helps with the spread. I've never heard of a tape.
A tape net, they're very popular, especially like in Florida, places like that. You hear a lot about it. A tape net, the purpose of the tape, and it's kind of what it is. It's like if you run a strip of tape about a couple of inches above your lead line, both sides, all the way around the net. Basically, what a tape net allows you to do, it lets the net stay open longer in deeper water. A tape net is very much a deep water kind of thing, and it is an awesome deal for catching bait in, I'll say, deeper than 20 foot. There's some guys with tape nets that are set up right that are catching bait in 40 feet of water.
I got you.
Yeah, tape nets are excellent for that.
Yeah, because like our cast nets, if you throw it in that deep water, by the time it gets to the bottom, it's probably half circumference of when it hit the water, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I feel mesh size is such a big player. Because if you have small mesh but heavy lead, what'll happen, it'll almost balloon on you. And because the mesh of the net creates drag.
Mm-hmm.
It wants to stay up. The lead line wants to sink. So it almost looks like a hot air balloon as it's going to the bottom. So sizing your mesh with your lead, with the depth you want to fish. There's a little bit of science to choosing the right cast net for what bait you're trying to catch, and depth of water is extremely important when selecting your cast net. Me personally, I love throwing that 1-inch mesh because I don't want those little shad that are 5-6 inches long. I don't want that. I want bigger stuff than that. It allows all that small stuff to go through.
Yeah.
But that's like Saturday when I went on the water. I was glad that I was able to get some of them about 3.5-inch shad because the fish actually was biting on them. Surprised me too.
Yeah, it happens. I find over the years I've kind of developed a little bit of theory as far as what bait to use. I know for me, it's a pattern every year, time of year, to where whatever bait fish are running in tight schools at that particular time of year, that's usually what your bait of choice is going to be. For example, in the warmer months, especially in late spring, during the summer, early fall, slicker is by far my best bait because they're running in tight schools, because they're feeding, because they're spawning. You find them in big, tight schools. You get more in the colder water period of the year. I'm going to say below 60-degree water temperatures. Well, that's when the gizzard shad start really tightening up, making really big, tight bait schools. And it just so happens that at that time of year, gizzard shad really starts becoming a really good bait for me. It's just, and I've worked on it for a few years now, and it seems like that's the pattern as far as what bait I want to use at a different time of year.
Are you about to go?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. They change up a lot.
Yeah.
Just when you think you got that blue cat or that flathead figured out, he throws a knot in the plan.
Yeah.
And something else I figured out about bait, well, my experience is
David Smith.
if you can get the bait that you fit on the water you're fishing,
Johnny.
that's the best bait for you.
Oh, yeah. And I see, and look, and I say this is a bad habit because I used to do it so much until somebody said something and it kind of, light bulb went off. We all have our spots that we know we can go catch bait easily. We all have those spots, right? Well, if you're especially a big blue who does not want to expend any more energy than he's got to, he's not going to be far from the bait. How many times have you yourselves or somebody run God knows how far to go catch bait because the bait is stacked up? but yet you back out and drive 10 miles to go fish.
Oh, Kelly.
You know, there's a lot of bait there. Why not fish right there close to where the bait is? I don't know how many times I've done that. Go halfway down the damn river, be like, wait a minute, it was stacked with bait over there. You know, why didn't I spend a little time looking around to see if there was some big fish in the area? You know, it happens all the time.
See, I
know an old man down in Texas. He would do that. He'd find a bait ball. He'd catch him some bait, and he'd go right out, not too far from the bait ball. And he would pull in some big fish.
Yep. I actually made that mistake when we found that group of shad boiling on the surface. We caught our bait real quick, and what's the first thing I did? I took off out of there and went 6 miles down the river. And after a while, I'm like, why did I leave? Why didn't I spend a little time scanning to see if I saw something? Well, come to find out, one of our other pro staff members, because I saw the pictures, I know where he was at, even though he didn't say it. He went through his net in the same pile of shad that I found, caught some, but he did what I should have done. He fished right there in that deeper water where them shad were, and he caught him a couple of nice fish. That was old John Bisco. I saw the pictures on Facebook. When I saw the background, I said, that's exactly where he was at.
You see, I got a spot like that too. That not all the time, but there's quite a few times it holds a good little shad, and I can come just off of that spot, and I'll drift down on that sandbar because it'll go from 12, 13 foot, and it'll drop to 25, and then it'll go down to 60, 70, and then end up around 87, 88 foot is the deepest spot. I've done that and fished just off that edge and caught some nice fish right there.
Yep.
Especially on a day when I'm really feeling lazy. That's what I do. I'll ease out the way with the bait hole. I'll drift back, check, mark some good fish. So let's find out if they're going to eat,
Yeah.
See, I've found that too, where sometimes when bait is thick, though, and it's easy to get, them fish has got lockjaw on them. But if you find it some days where the bait's scarce, it's like they're hungry, I don't know.
Now I'll tell you a little trick that's helped me in the past in fishing in areas where there's bait everywhere. Okay, and you're right, there's bait everywhere. Why bite the bait on your hook versus the millions of shad that are swimming right around it? That's where I find the particular cut that you use will start making a big difference. When there's shad everywhere, I'm a huge fan of that flapper cut, which is basically you fillet it on both sides, but you don't cut it off. You've got the head, 2 fillets flapping, and everything is open. It's what I call a very aggressive cut because it puts a massive amount of scent in the water. Now you're separating what's on your hook versus everything swimming in the water.
Yeah,
that's gonna get the fish's attention.
See,
Remember,
I kind of do that, but I'll flay one side and cut the tail off and throw it back out there.
Yeah, an aggressive cut when there's a lot of bait around makes all the difference in the world. Look, I've done that with slicker more than once. I've literally caught slicker around the boat while my anchoring rods are in the water. But that's what I'll do. I don't make a nice, pretty straight cut. I'll make the ugliest angled kind of cut to expose as much as I can. Even though it bleeds out quicker, I'm putting a huge amount of scent in the water. A lot of times that makes a difference in fish biting or not.
I tell you what I do sometimes, Creole, is in the wintertime, I like to use a bigger bait hole. So what I'll do is I'll cut just a little chunk right out by the gut pocket. Not no real big hole, just enough to get that gut pocket to start leaking.
Yeah.
And then put it out. It gives me a little more time with scent because it don't allow it to run out as quick.
Yeah.
So I can hold that bait a little bit longer on the hook.
Yeah, 100%. Now, somebody down here on Facebook is asking a really good question. We get that question asked a lot. Is during the winter, how long do you give a spot for blues behind those wing dams.
That's
Now,
gonna be on you, Creole, because I don't have them.
yeah, I don't fish them nearly as often like Jerry as some of these other guys do. But there's certain times of the year where I really, really love them. During the winter, on an average, regardless of the spot, it almost doesn't matter to me the type of spot. But during the winter, I'm gonna give those fish a little longer to get on that bait than I normally would. During the summer, warm water periods, I'm 30 minutes, I'll start getting antsy, because my way of fishing, not only am I marking fish, I'm reasonably sure they're active fish and they're the size I want to catch. So I know I'm throwing my bait at fish. So already I know that. I'm not waiting on fish to pass by. It's not how I fish. So 30 minutes at the most, warm water. 50 degrees and below, I start slowing everything down. Hour max. And I mean absolute max an hour. And the only reason I'll stay that long is if I really, really saw some good quality marks and I really want to try to catch them. That's what I'll do. But I don't keep my bait in that same spot for an hour. About once every 15 minutes. I know Roger and them call that nudging the baits. I might reel them up 2 cranks, which on my reels is 5 feet. Every crank on my big reels is 2.5 feet. So I'll nudge them a little, move them around just a little, because the colder the water, that bite window shrinks in front of that fish. Warm water, that fish may travel 10, 20 feet to your bait and go hit it. During the cold water period, they won't do that as much. You may have to really put that bait right there in front of them for them to bite. So I'm spending my time. I'm slowing down. I'm moving my bait slowly to see if I can get my bait just right there on that fish's nose and get him to hit. And it just takes a little more time to do that.
Yeah, I got that break, man. I was set in one spot for 10 hours without moving.
See, I do that. I do that during the winter when I'm burbot fishing. I'll give it 1 or 2 cranks.
What I do in the winter, Creole, what I'll do is I'll drop fish out the back of the boat. But what I do is I get just on the inside the current seam, and I'll let the current bounce my baits around.
There you go.
By swinging the boat.
Yep.
And I've done good like that before.
Essentially it's the same theory. You're slowly moving those baits around, letting them, because just the bait sitting there, you might have that bait sitting just behind a big catfish. That weight might be 2 feet behind his tail. He's not going to know it. But if you nudge it 5, 10 foot, how many times? I know it's happened to me a whole bunch. How many times have you been reeling up your rigs? Then the second you start reeling up, bam, one hits it.
What's up, guys?
Because you're nudging those baits. It was sitting behind it all that time. And when you moved it past him, he hit it. He wanted to come see. But again, I know I'm setting up on fish. If you're fishing off the bank, that's a little bit of a different scenario. You don't know if fish are there or not. When fishing off the bank, you're counting on fish to move through. It's almost like deer hunting from a stand. You're there, you're stationary, you're hoping they move through your area that you're set up. So it kind of it changes things depending on your style of fishing.
Yeah.
See, whenever I'm bank fishing, man, I hunt them turn holes. I mean, that's me. I love them turn holes.
Yep.
What I look for from the bank is I'll look for the snaggiest areas you can find from the bank, and I'll throw right to the edge of it, if not right in it.
Yep.
Not only that, from the bank, and some of these guys where they got a fish at, their only chance is that one hit and he gets him up. If not, they're gonna lose some. They're gonna lose some equipment. Either they're gonna lose a hook, or they're gonna
Yeah.
lose that $1.50 weight. I mean,
Mhm.
so they're really finicky about moving in some of them spots because you just don't want to take that chance.
Yeah.
You
That's
know
like
what I found from the bank, what I started doing, started using a couple of years ago, started using Brad's dragon weight.
Yeah.
And like on the Fox River where I fish, man, some of the spots it's rocky as can be. Or there's just a lot of snags in the water. I don't get hung up as much with them dragon weights fishing from the bank, which helps out a heck of a lot fishing those snags.
Yeah, I mean, I know I deal with it. I know John deals with it. I see Danny over there in chat. I know he deals with it all the time. That matted revetment that we have on the banks around here. If you get a weight, a hook, anywhere even close to that stuff, you ain't getting it back. So, sometimes to fish a bank spot, like you say, you just have to kind of commit to it. You gotta be like, okay, well, I'm gonna cast out, and unless a fish bites it, we gonna leave it there a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that. I mean, you can ask Patrick. He's been down on my end. I mean, you pretty much whatever weight you got, it doesn't really matter on some of the spots I got down there. If you throw it in it, it ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just, I mean, from over the years of that revetment washing out,
Oh
the
yeah.
rocks changing spots. I mean, right now you can see all of that trash that you fish in
Mhm.
because the river's so low.
Yep.
And you look at the way some of that is, and if that anchor line goes down in there, she ain't coming back.
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
I mean,
That's where suspending has been my saving grace over areas like that. I know I'm spoiled rotten because I got that fancy spot lock trolling motor, but I will literally I'll spot lock right over those places where that revetment just does this and it's just busted up like this. I'll get right over the top. I'll suspend my baits, maybe 2 foot right over the top of them, and I've caught a lot of nice fish doing that without losing a bunch of tackle. That's the great part.
I do the same thing. I'll get it.
Yep.
I know if I hit the bottom, it's going to stay there.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is in that situation is I'll drop that anchor because I anchor a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'll drop that anchor just on the inside of that seam to where I know it's going to swing that boat. And I'll run that bait down, and as soon as it touches the bottom, I'm cracking up 2 turns because I know I'm high enough at that point.
Yeah.
And I'll let that current seam just swing that booger around and around in that nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it'll do the same thing for me. I get kind of in that eddy, and there's certain spots where the boat, the trolling motor will stay in place,
but that back of that boat just goes down
doing this the whole time, and it does it all the time. And like I said, I've caught lots of fish doing that. There's some areas there's no way I could fish it if it wouldn't be for that. Can't anchor right there because it'll just spin you around.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta play it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just got to know your spots well enough.
Yeah.
That if you're gonna throw that anchor, you know what it's gonna do with the boat.
Yeah.
You know how the boat's gonna react.
And an idea that I had to get in my head quite a few years ago is I have to ignore what's comfortable for me, what's easy for me. Me does not matter. It does not matter what I want to do. It's where are the fish and what do I need to do to put a bait in front of them? And sometimes that takes some kind of interesting methods to try to accomplish that. But my comfort, what's easy, that never matters for me. It's where are the fish? What do I need to do to put a bait in front of them? And I've done some weird stuff over the years to try to get baits in a certain area because you know how it is when the boat just sits there and it's nice and pretty and perfectly straight and everything's great. That's probably not the spot you need to be.
Yep, and I agree. I agree with Catfish Junkie. From the bank, if there's water, I'm happy. I sometimes don't fish to catch fish.
Yeah,
life is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And
I
that
agree.
he's right about it,
Hell, with me, my wife, and the kids went this weekend. Hey, I caught bait. I caught a bunch of shad, and I went to the reservoir up there in Jackson. Fished at the spillway, and I also fished on another spot on the lake in one of them bays. Hey, we didn't do no good. My wife caught one drum at the spillway, man. Hey, but you know what? We had a blast.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Time
never a
well
wasted trip when you're on the water, man. That's the way I see it.
It's always time well spent.
You know, I think there's a lot of people that really, it pays to be honest with yourself about what makes you happy when you go fishing. Okay. Don't let a guy like me, Patrick, tell you that, oh, if you ain't catching 50 pounders, you're not having a good time. Dude, no, don't. No.
Hey, I
Never-
haven't caught one yet unless you talk about
Exactly.
saltwater.
If simply being in the outdoors is plenty enough to relax you and make you happy, and that's what you're getting out of it, then 100% don't let anybody tell you that you're doing anything wrong. Me, for example, I'm kind of the opposite. I tend to fish for myself like I'm in a tournament. That's just how I am. If I can get one good, solid quality bite all day and get that one big fish, I'm happy. I'm good. There's other people, they're not worried about how big it is, but they want to catch 20 or 30 smaller ones a day. That's what makes them happy.
See, I done come to find out if I want a big fish, I go south. I go to the coast. And man, I've caught so many big fish down there, dude. I mean, which is the same thing. I've been down there too, also. That's hour and a half drive for me. And I ain't caught a lick, didn't get a single bite. But you know what? Just being on the water, watching the sunrise or the sunset, vice versa. So I've done them both. And I've seen them both at the same time, actually, because I've stayed overnight. But just being out there, man, it's just, I mean,
that's like me. I got one goal in mind, and that's to make it past. All I got to do is catch one fish next month, one fish next December. All I need is one fish in each of those months. And then I can say I haven't been skunked for 10 years.
Ooh, that's nice.
And then I'm gonna shut that challenge off and leave it alone.
Yep.
But I'm that away though. I mean, now's the time of the year with these cool days coming for us. I mean, look, it'll be easy for y'all to roll up down there and find me anchored out in the eddy sleeping. Not so much worried about the fish, just enjoying the peace and quiet and the relaxation of where I'm at.
Lance, what you doing leaving your gear at the Pay Lake?
I don't know who that is. That's on Facebook.
Would you like to know? I can tell you who it is. It's Jordan. You know a Jordan?
Yeah, I know him.
Okay, that's who it is.
Pay Lakes. I ain't gonna even start on that one.
Oh,
well,
that's a whole other show right there.
You gotta look at this in two ways now. It's Pay Lakes, right? So they paying the fish there, but I mean we're actually paying the fish in the river.
Yeah.
We're paying a hell of a lot more taxes to fish in the river than they are fishing in the damn lake.
We're catching wild, fresh fish, not wore out, half dead fish.
Natural. We're gonna catch a
20. You see what Chad said?
That'll give you a fight of a 60 out of a pay.
I saw what Chad said. I wasn't going to reference it, but he has set the bar very low for himself. if it makes him happy, to be me. He has set that bar low. Let me tell you. Oh, Chad.
Yes, indeed. But
I think we're getting to that time of year now. As far as bait goes, it hasn't happened down here for us yet, but I think some people fish a little further north. That water temperature is really starting to transition right now. And I think people are starting to get into that time where your primary bait is going to start changing. It doesn't happen for us, for me anyway. 50 degrees is like my mark. even 55, 55 or so, it's that narrow part of the year where gizzard shad actually becomes a better bait for me. Now it's got to be them big ones.
And
Gotta
that's
be them
water
real,
temp,
real
right?
big water.
Not air temp.
Yeah, water
You
temperature.
get you get 50 degrees when about January? 50
way-
degree water temps?
The way it's going this year, probably.
But the thing about it is, though, Lance, is we'll get that water temp. Just say mid-December, we'll finally hit that mark.
Yep.
But that low temp mark is gonna hold a lot longer for us than anybody else.
Yep.
Believe it or not.
Yep, because
We'll have that water temp for
Yep.
what? 2 months, 3 months,
Oh yeah.
4 months.
Yeah. I've seen 50-degree water temperatures even in April because we're
Getting all
getting
that melted
cold
snow.
water.
We gotta wait for all that cool water to get down here.
Yeah.
That's why what I'll do in my specific area, I'll just jump over to where Red River comes in, because the water coming out of Red River during the spring, I've seen it 12, 15 degrees warmer than the water coming out of that hydro, which is being pulled off the Mississippi. So I'll literally move over out in the Red River channel and fish on the warmer water side. I'm talking moving the boat 30 feet.
No, bro.
The boat 30 feet over, make a 10, 12 degree water temperature difference, but that's where all the fish are stacked up.
I was just about to ask you if you ever fished that temperature seam.
I have. That is a killer spot for me every spring because that big temperature difference in that seam also makes a really crazy looking mud line.
Yeah.
That's almost guaranteed fish for me every year when that happens. It's a very, very good spot. Let's see. Somebody was asking a question. I keep trying to highlight comments like it's my show. I'm too used to like comments. I'm clicking my mouse. I'm like, why isn't it working?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to try down there, actually. That's Jordan. I know he's asking. Down in Port Washington, we got the power plant down there, and they always shooting hot water out into the river. I might actually, because I've heard of guys pulling out some 20, 25-pound channel cat out of that river. I might try that this year when I go down there for burbot fishing. I might put a line out it's always a chance because burbot and the cats, man, they eat the same dang bait.
Yeah.
So there's always a chance we can get into a channel cat in there. And I've talked to guys, like I said, they pull in some nice channel cats there.
See, another thing John has taught me that I've done is when you're doing your bait, if you got multiple rods, put different size baits on, because sometimes you will find that fish don't want a big bait, or he wants a big bait.
Dan?
It's really good because I've seen some really big fish that John's caught on just the smallest piece of bait you could think of. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's about like a burger. I try to do small, medium, and large.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't let Fern do it.
No,
that's a pound per patty.
That's a big burger. He's watching. He's watching on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Fern's over there watching on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Of all the big fish I've caught, I'm going to say 50 plus, and over. Most of the big fish I've caught has probably come on a piece of bait no bigger than my hand. I have caught some really nice fish on just some ridiculously big baits, but more of the average is probably a 4 or 5 inch chunk of bait. That's probably my.
I just finished saying probably a half a skip, a 10-inch skip, or a half a 10-inch gizzard. Yeah.
Yep. Now, for some people, that is a huge bait. It just depends on the size of fish in your waters and what you're trying to go after. For us, that's an average size bait.
Believe it or not, I caught that 100-pounder on that bait. I had on it was actually a piece of fillet off of a skip. It was a shad. Off of a shad. all I done was fillet a little piece. I folded it on the hook and literally dropped it straight out of the back of the boat.
Yep.
I figured I was close to him, but I wasn't positive. Dropped it out of the boat, caught 3 or 4 fish on the other rods.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one, when he hit, he went, rolled it down.
Yep.
It was on.
Yep.
And it's hell, the next one might take, like you said, a 5-8 inch piece of bait to get.
Yeah.
It's that time of the year and the temperature of the water. I mean, it makes a big difference in everything.
Yeah.
On what bait they
Parker.
But I will say this, and I will stand by this no matter what. Having fresh, good bait is great and all, but bait placement is going to be more important no matter what.
That's it.
Putting-
You gotta
can
get
have the best bait in the world. You can have the best, freshest, whatever fish you've got. But if you're not putting that bait in the right spot, ain't nothing going to hit it. But if you put a okay bait in the perfect location, you can still get that fish.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get it close enough, he's gonna hit it, and most of the times it doesn't matter what it is.
No.
He's gonna take it.
If you put it right in his face, like at one time, and Danny Jerry are fixing to laugh at me. Well, Jerry won't laugh. At one time in my career, my PB was caught on a piece of chicken breast about the size of my thumb in 50-degree water bumping. But of all things, I was bumping with a piece of chicken because that's all the bait I had. And you know what? I'm convinced that I hit that big blue in the nose with that piece of chicken, and he got so mad at me that he bit it. I'm just convinced that's why it happened. But you know, I still caught that. I still got him though.
You dropped it in his jaw.
Yeah, I was trying a method of doing something that I had been wanting to try. All I had left was chicken, so I said, "Well, I'm not going to do this with an empty hook. I'll put the chicken on there just to say I'm doing this." Because the current was so fast, my trolling motor wouldn't slow me down enough. So I would run my big motor at idle to help my trolling motor and I was bumping with 12 ounces of lead to try to cover it, and that's when I caught that fish.
You see what Danny said, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I know. But that was one time. I don't make it a habit of using chicken very often. Some people do, and some people catch great fish on it. I've tried for a long time. I don't catch big fish on chicken. For some reason in my area, that just doesn't work out that way.
Look,
if it works for somebody else, hey, no problem. You ain't gonna hear no complaints out of me.
That's what I'm saying. You know, I got 3 major baits. That's slicker, shad, and mullet.
Yep.
That's my 3 main baits right there.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I haven't used a night crawler in 30 years.
Oh, nope.
You
to
know,
me, using a worm, that's for me, and I know for John too. In that big river, all you're gonna do on worms is catch a bunch of goo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can definitely catch that.
Now, believe it or not, I caught about a 18-pound goo on cut shad.
Yeah.
They bite. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parker said he caught a 72 on that $half size chicken.
Yep. I remember that.
Yep.
Yep. I do remember that. But that's kind of my point. I mean, having the right bait is an awesome thing. But
yeah,
if you put the same amount of effort in where you're putting that bait, you're going to be more successful.
Yep.
You know, hope is not a plan. Just chunking your rod out there and hoping for the best. You may look up and catch a fish every now and then, but the proper planning, use whatever resources you've got at your disposal to try to find the best spot to put those baits, you're going to be more successful, hands down. But whether you're bank boat, doesn't matter.
Yes, indeed. Well, Creel, have you got to try the reds yet?
I did. Last time I went fishing, I only caught 1 fish. I barely evaded skunking that day, but I did catch that 1 fish on that red hook. And I'll tell you now, he played with it one time, and when I reeled down on him, that red hook got him. I was impressed. I was impressed because normally that's like a 50 shot, having to reel down on a fish like that. But it got him, and I'm talking perfectly right there in the corner of the mouth, just like I wanted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we done good this weekend too with it. I mean,
I saw that.
we used all them fish was caught on 2 hooks.
It's funny how that goes.
2 hooks. Never changed the hook. Them 2 hooks. That's what they caught.
That happens to me a lot too. I'll have rods. I'll have 4 to 6 rods at the back of the boat, but it seems like when I find the fish, it's 1 or 2 rods that get all the action.
Yeah. See, what you was just talking about, John. I don't change my hooks until I lose that bad boy. Not with RCT.
Yeah.
I ain't changing. I'm lazy. I'm old and lazy. I'm only gonna change it if I got to.
Bad thing. Well, it ain't bad, but I mean, they stay sharp. I mean, I've hit snags to where I would have to tighten the drag all the way and hold the reel and snatch it, get the hook back, and that's something that's still sharp. I mean, why change it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being honest. There ain't no need.
Yep. The only thing that'll hurt that hook that I've discovered is if when you're rearing back to cast and you accidentally get the hook under the gunnel of your boat and then rear back on it full strength, hooks won't survive that. They ain't no hook will.
Well, as a big old boy you are, you're lucky you didn't break it all off when you went to throw it.
Yeah, I have done
that. I've done that.
Danny
said, you swear I'm 7 foot tall. Jesus, ain't my fault you short, John.
I know that. Let's see. What was that Danny said?
Let's see. Danny said every fish he's caught since last weekend was on the red hook.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Even one, him and Bobcat that Friday night using those hooks.
Yeah, that's right, because he got second place in Jody's challenge.
Yeah. I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched until my old butt couldn't stay up no more.
It was bad, Rich. Horrible backlash when that happened. That was a bring it home and cut it out with a razor blade backlash. That's what that was.
Ah, dang.
Yeah. I don't backlash often, but when I do, I make it count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's 7:05.
What'd you say?
I think we're gonna call it a night, guys.
But yeah, I hope that little bit of info helps some folks out. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's all different ways to get that bait. Yeah. If you just ask a few questions, and you know, it'll help.
Yep, because somebody may have some little trick, some little method that they use that maybe, you know, somebody's never heard of, and any little thing will help out.
Yep, anything will help.
And if y'all want even more detailed information about bait, especially catching skipjack, finding them, putting them up, how to properly deal with it, that will be the subject of Roger and I's show Tuesday night, because we're going to have the owner, Brad Lale of the Gunnersville Bait Company, as a guest on our show Tuesday night.
Oh.
So we will get to continue this conversation Tuesday night and give y'all even more good information on getting bait.
Good deal.
And what time is that show on Tuesday, Creo?
7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
There you guys go. Want more info? 7 o'clock Central, Creo's channel.
Yep.
Or Rogers.
Yeah, mine or Rogers. Either way, broadcast on both channels at the same time.
All right. We're going to call it a night. Thanks for everybody for coming in.
All right. Peace out.
Everybody have a good week. We out.